Hi, you're listening to Boggy Talk, Faith Conversations in the Mud, a resource of Church on Bayshore.
Hey, and welcome to Boggy Talk for this very special episode. And you're asking yourselves, what makes this episode special? Well, it's because James isn't here, and I've got the microphone, and I can do whatever I want to. Just kidding. I'm actually joined today by Jeremy and Kelly Hefner, two awesome members here at Church on Bayshore, and they're joining us because this week is Veterans Day, and we thought it would just be a great opportunity to talk to some church members who are in the military, who've lived military life, and just ask them some of the ins and outs of military lives. And, I was out of town, or not out of town. I was in India a few weeks ago, and James got to host by himself, and he brought in Alec. And I'll just say, you guys are way cooler than Alec. Oh. So I win the guest.
Shots fired.
Just kidding. So also, I'll say, for those of you who've listened to Boggy Talk for a while, you know we have an infamous sinking stool. And I'm in that stool today, but it actually is okay because we're also missing one of our mic stands. So I had to find another mic stand, and it's really short. So I have a mic stand stacked on top of 4 Bibles because I'm tall. So it actually works out well because as I sink lower, I don't have to do anything. I just can take a Bible out and just get a little with the microphone. But hey, you guys doing okay?
Yeah,
doing great.
Good. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for being here. And we're just going to ask you guys some questions. Really, the goal in doing this Veterans Day week is to help people in our church and other people who listen to this understand some of the unique dynamics of military family. And I think we asked you guys when we talked about there's plenty of military families in our church we could ask. And you guys were ones that we thought of because you guys are in the middle of everything. Because you have 3 kids, you're figuring stuff out, but you also have you guys demonstrate, your eyes are on Jesus. As you're figuring all this out, you're looking to him for your wisdom. You guys are plugged in. You've made a priority of being involved in your local church, not just here, but everywhere you've lived. And we think that's amazing. So I want you guys just to start off by first telling us about your family. Who are you and how long you've been married, kids, and how did you guys meet? And whoever tells the better version of that story gets to tell that story.
Yeah, so we were in Colorado and actually met in a college and career class, and she was dating someone else at the time, so we kind of had just a friendship first, and it wasn't until I actually moved away that we actually picked things up and became a distant relationship, and went from there.
She saw the light.
Yes,
she was like,
got rid of all those other guys.
This guy I'm dating is just nowhere near as good as Jeremy.
Yeah. Well, the hilarious thing is I remember seeing him in our Sunday school class, like, oh, Jeremy Hefner is so nice. He would make such a great husband one day to someone else. And joke's on me.
That's funny. That is what, Christy and I have a very similar story. We were good friends in college. And I remember really encouraging one of my friends to ask her out. I was like, she's amazing. Yeah. You should ask her out. Yeah. And then she broke his heart. So anyway, tell us about your family, where you're from, all those things.
Yeah, so I grew up in New Mexico, and Kelly was kind of all over.
Military brat.
Yep.
Yeah.
So she's kind of familiar with the lifestyle a little bit. And then we have 3 kiddos. We have 2 in middle school and 1 still in children's ministry.
3rd grade.
3rd grade. Yeah. So you guys
7th,
have,
7th, 6th, and 3rd.
Yeah. You guys have multiple middle schoolers in your house too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
It's fun, right?
So fun.
Yes. Yeah.
It is. There are times it's fun. And there's times when you're like, could we have some more hormones, please? In this room?
Yeah.
Are we really having this conversation right now? What's going on? Yeah.
That's really funny. So tell us how and why did you pursue the military?
Well, I wanted to get a good education. I wanted to fly. Pretty selfish stuff at first. And then I was patriotic, I think, and wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. And then we were actually at a summer camp. I think it was my senior year, going into my senior year in high school, and was doing quiet time and was really wrestling with, is this what you want me to do, God? And was brought to 2 Timothy chapter 2, where Paul talks about, compares the Christian life to being like a good soldier and being concerned with what your superior is concerned with and not the concerns of the world. And that was kind kind of a silly way, but that was God speaking to me through the Holy Spirit and His Word, and saying, "Hey, this is what I do want you to do," and that was a confirmation. So it kind of went from there.
Oh, that's great. I love, like what you said, you renew your mind to the truth, and the Holy Spirit speaks to you. That's so good. So you were in the Air Force when you guys met?
Yeah. Right? So the funny thing is, growing up with a dad in the Air Force, I always said I would not marry anyone in the military because I was sick of moving around. And I was like, we've been there, done that. And like I said, like God had bigger plans for us. And, He Facebook messaged me.
Oh.
We had, and
you guys
asked for my number.
Wow. So we're older than you guys. So ours was through email.
Well, it started off on AIM.
Yeah, we started on Instant Messenger.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody else, like lower generation, knows what that is.
AOL, right?
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Used to get in trouble for tying up her parents' landline, trying to talk.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to ask that. Yeah. So you grew up in the military. I mean, as a military child, and then so you kind of knew that aspect of this as you're getting into it. Like, hey, if this thing goes towards marriage, I kind of know the life I'm signing up for.
Well, yeah, kind of. But my dad never deployed.
Oh,
and so that was completely new for us because my dad was not in a career field that went to a combat zone. So I kind of had an idea with the moves, but not nearly, with the deployments and separation and stuff. My dad would do TDYs, but they were not very long.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, Jeremy, that just speaks to you how high caliber guy you are. That she still said yes, knowing what she was.
And we're coming up on 15 years of marriage next month.
Woohoo! Hey, so, awesome!
Yeah.
Congrats. That's a big milestone.
Yeah.
That's a big milestone. Well, let's talk about some of the nuances and really some of the challenges that come along with being a military family. You already talked about the moves, and you guys have moved a good bit. So, what impacts has your family experienced in the military moves? And there's challenges, but there's also positive benefits of the moves too. So let's talk about that. How has moving impacted your family?
I'd say on the good side, you get plugged into a community, a church, a group of friends, and you spend 2, 3, 4 years there and invest as much as you can. And then you all kind of scatter to the winds. So we have good friends all over, and places that we consider, still very dear to our hearts as far as old churches and places that mean a lot to us. But on the flip side of that, I'm sure Kelly can probably speak more than I can on some of the difficulties of then having to peel away from those networks and those support groups and those friendships.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I can't even think of like all the times that we've moved, like numbering them all, but each one was at a different stage of our marriage and a stage with our children.
Yeah.
So early on, when you're taking toddlers or babies from an environment and home, it's not as hard because they haven't made those connections. Obviously, it's hard on me because like every time you go to move, you just want to like get rid of everything you own, like because you were like, how do I own this much stuff?
Right.
Because you have to organize it for the packers to come. One move I did do completely by myself. He was gone and I had to be there for the movers. I had to go to the closing for the house, pack up your parents came to get the kids, pack up the animals and drive to Texas by myself. That was challenging. But as the kids have gotten older, it's heartbreaking to pull them away from friends because once you get to that 2 or 3 year point of your time somewhere, us as well. Like we've made friends that you start to get those deeper friendships, really connected in church. The kids are making friends. They love their school and then it's time to go. And so that's really, really hard, to go through that, which is, I think, why we're really trying to not move anymore because of middle schoolers. We don't want to take them away from those friendships that they've made, but it's definitely a challenge.
Mm-hmm. And then you add into that, so that's the moving, and then you leave, you go TDY or deploy. Speak to some of those challenges. And the reason I ask this is because we know that this, so those of us who are non-military, we know this happens and we try to support. So I want, as you share some of the challenges, and I know there's support within some of the military communities, but what we really want to be as a faith community is a support for people. So maybe even sharing some of the challenges of when he's gone, or also share some of the ways that you have been blessed by people supporting you, ways that your family has been supported.
Sure. So, I mean, early on, connectivity has gotten better as time has gone on, as far as being able to reach back home and video chat and stuff like that. Early on, it was not nearly as good. So that has improved, but it's inevitable. I step out the door, something in the house is going to break.
Everything goes wrong.
One of the kids is going to get sick. So she's playing zone defense, and that's when stuff tends to pop up. And so being able to get help with little incidentals and logistics, and just sometimes it's somebody pops by with a meal or some little treat for the kids or something, and that's just means the world. It's knowing that someone else is there looking after and thinking of you is helpful. We talked about the other day, there are longer term like deployments and there are shorter term like TDYs. And so deployments, you're gone for a long time, and that's hard because you're away for a while, but there's just continuity. They can get into a routine. And so that's in some ways easier, in some ways harder. But when we go to frequent trips with more snapshots, like that was what Japan was a lot for me. It was a lot of shorter trips. So I would get to come home, and that was easier for me personally because I get to see them more often and be more plugged in. But in some ways that was almost more disruptive because I'm gone, I'm back, I'm gone, I'm back. And
the kids are like, are you here? Where are you going?
Right.
Every morning they were figuring it out.
And I feel like we have a pretty good ability to kind of flow back in. I haven't really had a lot of the stress of, reuniting that I know some people do, but I know that is definitely a thing because, when she's had to handle the checkbook and handle some of the logistics of the household, and then I come back in and like, oh, I can pick that back up again. Like, well, you got to catch up to speed.
That's right.
There's a system, and I know sometimes that can be stressful and difficult too. But what do you think about some of the things people have done that have been helpful?
Well, we've said this before, and I know we've talked before about how we see church as our family, and not just because our family doesn't live here, but because that's just the way that it is supposed to be.
Yeah.
We're a church family. And I specifically remember one time I was on my way to Texas to see family. I had 2 dogs, a cat, and Ryan and Audrey were little, and I got a flat tire on the highway. And I was only 10 minutes down the road, thank the Lord. And I called the church, and they sent 2 men from the church, and they changed my tire on the side of the highway. So that was a huge blessing. I've had people mow my lawn because not that I couldn't physically do it, but I had babies, and the only time I could do it was nap time. And inevitably, you get out there, you get the lawnmower ready, and they wake up.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to put the baby monitor over here and mow and watch it and see if it's lighting up. And, it was challenging to get all the things done. So ministering to us in that way, but also I didn't stop coming to church. I stayed very plugged in. So people knew what was going on with me. If I missed a Sunday, someone would check on me. Hey, are you doing okay? What's going on? Do you need anything? So that connection is definitely 2 ways. It took some effort.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's really, and that leads into something I want to ask you guys, because you guys, I know your involvement here at Church on Bayshore, and you guys were previously in Japan, and before that you were actually here. And I know you guys have shared just some of your involvement even there in Japan and in other places you've been. Why have you prioritized involvement in the local church? And how have you done that as a family?
I think more than anything, there are a lot of things that we appreciate, a lot of things that we enjoy. Like we like sports, we like music. There's a lot of things that we're involved in and we put pretty high value on. But when it comes down to it, the top priority has to be the church. It has to be the spiritual walk of our children. And we value very much the message that we're sending them by putting our money where our mouth is and walking the walk as best we can. And all of these things are great, but there's only one thing that can be in the first priority. And that's what we've tried very hard to do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have to have our family in church because we're not supposed to do it alone, right? We're not supposed to, we are obviously the primary caregivers of our children. We are primarily responsible for teaching them about the Lord. We're not responsible for saving them. That's the Holy Spirit's job, right? But we need you guys to come alongside us. So it wasn't even a question. And we're really blessed to be on the same page, because from day one of our marriage, we were on the same page that we will be in church. We will take our children. It will be a priority. I mean, we have even literally moved into a place, been still in boxes and everything, and been like, hey, it's Sunday. Like, we're going to church, and we come back and we finish unpacking, that afternoon. And just showing the children that it is a priority for us. It's not a box to check. Like, we are going to do what the Lord has asked us to do. And, sports are great. Music is great. I want my girls to be wonderful dancers and Ryan to enjoy sports, but we can't put that above their spiritual health.
Yeah, I like what you said, because you guys are involved in the community. Your kids do activities. It's not that you're, but you guys really have placed a high priority on this, and you guys serve as life group leaders, and you guys have served with students and kids as well. And a lot of other ways too. But you, a few weeks ago, we were doing our intergenerational series, and Jeremy, you were serving on our New Hope for the Future team, and we asked that team to do some videos just about testimony videos of faithfulness and giving. And you guys had a really cool story about your church in Japan in a family connection, because we asked the question, as a military family, you're typically in places a few years. So I think we see some families, military families, are like, we're only here a little bit. We're diving right in, and we have the other side of that is when it comes to believing families in our military are like, we're only here a few years. We're just, and especially in our area, we live near the beach. We can take 2 or 3 years and just beach it up all the time and not prioritize local church. But you guys have a really cool story of how you were on the receiving end of some of that intergenerational stuff. I want y'all to share that story, because not everyone was here that day in service, and it's just a cool story.
Yeah. So
I'm putting you on the spot because I didn't tell you to share this.
Yeah. So we got plugged into a church, and it was funny. Before we ever left here to go to Japan, we had 2 different completely unrelated people tell us, hey, you should check out Koza Baptist Church. Because at the time, we thought we were, going straight into the mission field, heart of darkness. Who knows what's there? Is this going to be, chapel only on base? So we went and we checked it out. This is a really cool church. And we found out after the fact that the original church campus was founded by some good friends of Kelly's grandparents. And so years ago, when they were first at the base, and it was a much more remote place to be, they had the vision and invested and were obedient, and we were the beneficiaries of that faithfulness. And that meant the world to us. And so we've tried to carry that forward, and everywhere we go, jumping in, because we only have so much time. And so we can either invest or we cannot. And we wanted to make it a priority so that, we could make those connections, those relationships, and make that effort now, but also investing in the future, because that's, who knows who's going to be able to benefit from that down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the really cool thing is this couple that he's talking about, they are now with the Lord. But I was able to go back for my papa's funeral, and they stayed in the same assisted living facility as my grandparents. Yeah. And I brought them a bulletin.
Oh, how cool.
From the church.
Wow.
And I
awesome.
went over to their room and I gave them the bulletin. I was like, this is from the church that you helped plant back in the 60s.
That's amazing.
Right. And they were just so thrilled to see like what the Lord had done through planting that church that then blessed our family that many years later. It is kind of give you chills, because you're like, wow, like the Lord is faithful. The Lord works through the obedience of his people.
That's so cool.
And I love how God sometimes gives us those little glimpses of impact. Like they didn't have to ever know that, and that we were able to provide that to them. It means a lot, because sometimes some little something happens and oh wow, that really did something. That really meant something. That's special. And that was I loved it. They were able to have that.
Yeah, that's really cool. So here at Church on Bay Shore, you guys are life group leaders, and your group is primarily people, your age range, peers. But I would say that you guys have also, I think, been intentional about building relationships and seeking out relationships with people from other generations, like people older than you, and seeking that out. So I want you guys to share really what's been the value of that for you guys in your marriage and your family, and, as you've sought out those relationships from other people who are ahead of life in you. Because I think this is often a missing piece for people. And I think being a military family, you move into a place and those relationships take a little more time to build because they're not quite as natural. You're not meeting people much older than you when you're taking your kids to the playground or in carpool and all those places. So how have you guys sought those relationships out, and how have they formed, and how have they impacted your family?
Yeah. So we were actually talking about this yesterday, and we don't want it to seem like we were just like, we were the ones seeking them out. We have always valued that, and not having like our family here, grandparents and aunts and uncles here. It is great to be able to connect with people that are older than you, but we were sought out by people like Bill and Carol Wise and Dennis and Leah Brown and John and Charlotte Smith. They sought us out when we lived here before.
Yeah.
And so they really came alongside me. And this kind of goes back to like, how have you been supported while Jeremy, like when Jeremy was deployed and we had Wednesday night supper, I would come. And it seems like a lifetime ago to think of like Ryan as, a preschooler, and Audrey was like,
he's big. He's
Audrey,
he's
yeah,
a big middle school
right.
now.
Like Audrey was little, Allison was a baby, and I'd have Allison on my hip, and like the ladies would just flock to me. Can I take the baby for you? Come sit with us. How was your week? Like, how are you doing? And so we felt so loved and cared for, and we're like, this is our family. We just saw the value in that. So I give the credit to those people, not to us really seeking it out. I think we probably would have eventually seen the value in that. So then when we came back from Japan, having been in a military church where there really are not a lot of
it's all military age folks,
people your age, younger.
We were
older,
like so
much.
thrilled. And we eat dinner every Wednesday night with John and Charlotte Smith.
Yeah.
And they're like our parents. They're like our kids' grandparents, obviously both of our parents are still around, but they're like our Florida parents, and we love touching base with them, and they give us advice, and they mentor us, and they encourage us in our parenting and in our marriage. And it's just, you really can't put a price on something like that.
And I would say, especially in those earlier stages, you're in the trenches with the kids. Like you're just pulling your hair out. And that may have been one of the only touch points of having adult conversation for, any length of time throughout the week. And
right.
Yeah. So kind of circle back to like marriage stuff. So you guys celebrating 15 years in a month, which is pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. And I like what you said earlier. You said something about how, different stages of marriage,
Mm-hmm.
What would you guys say? Because you're still growing, you're still learning, you don't know everything. But what advice, because I think the moves, the deployments, those things, we see those are hard events, and, they can either pull you apart or draw you together. What advice would you give to families who are, in the military, just what you've learned in marriage, and then those outside, how we can support even more?
I'd say that don't get caught up in the small stuff. There's a lot of stuff that'll just nip at you, just interpersonal stuff, but also just odds and ends, things that are happening that are going on, trivial stuff, logistical stuff. And like, don't let that steal the joy away from being a husband and wife. Don't let that take away from how you view your spouse, because I think Kelly's amazing. And sometimes if I let the work day or all the other stuff swirling around get in the way, and I let that, just kind of make me dissatisfied with the state of things, I can very easily become a grumpy person and not be fun to be around. So I have to kind of intentionally leave that behind and make sure I focus on being the best I can to represent Christ to her and the kids. And that's not always easy. That's easier said than done. But I don't know if that's helpful or not.
Yeah, I think for me, communication is huge. And I definitely want to be sensitive to the fact that there are some deployed locations where you don't have the kind of communication that we would ideally like to have. We were blessed to have early on, we had Skype. And then we were able to have FaceTime and text message, but Jeremy and I would communicate as much as possible. I know some people kind of emotionally say, I'm just going to put my head down and get through this deployment, and it'll be what'll be, and I'll be back in a few months. But I've found that people that don't have the communication really struggle because they don't feel connected to their spouse. So if there's any way you can, whether it be an email or a text message or a quick phone call or something, I think that's really important. And also talking to the kids about their dad, and he's not here, but we're still a family. He is still very much involved in their life, and I try not to go into, just me and the kids mode. And I think that's why our transitions when you come back are a little bit easier. Yeah. Because it's not just, okay, out of sight, out of mind, right? He's still very much a part of our family, a part of our decision making, trying to tell him when there's big things going on, when there's happy things going on, when there's hard things going on. Try not to dump too much on him, especially if he's in a combat zone. That's not really helpful at the moment, but yeah, we've always had really good communication. I mean, obviously not perfect. And sometimes you have better, opportunities to talk than others, but I think don't stop talking to each other really is a big one.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think that so much of relationships comes back to communication, and all of us have work to do in that area, you know, and I think that's, again, one of the reasons we asked you guys to share all this is that you guys are still figuring a lot of this out, and y'all are committed. I think you show that in your lives that you're committed to still trying to grow, honor Jesus, figure it all out. So I just want to say thank you for doing that, for being faithful. And I know it's all God's grace. It's all his goodness. We didn't ask you because you're experts. We just asked you because you're awesome. You love Jesus and you're committed to this. And I think you represent the very best of our United States Air Force. Jeremy and Kelly.
You're too kind.
But I think, you guys are just are great people. And I'm thankful that our kids are friends and as well. So I do know this about you guys, just being around you here at church, is that I think you're both a little competitive. And so we have been ending Boggy Talk with a game. And being that it's November and it's almost Thanksgiving, nothing is more in the spirit of Thanksgiving than a little competition between husband and wife. We're going to pitch you guys against each other. So we're going to play a game called, I'm making up this name right now. It's called Speed Test. All right, because it involves being fast. So I'm going to name a topic related to Thanksgiving. And you got, better name, rapid fire. That's it. This is called. And you guys have to rapid fire, take turns. And you have no more than 2 seconds or 3 seconds to name something that falls in that category. So go back and forth until one of you freezes and just can't do it. If you freeze, you lose.
Okay. What if we freeze the very first round?
Then you lose, and it's going to be a very short game. Okay. So first thing we're going to start with, and I'll give you 5 seconds once I say, okay, I guess we're going to have to decide who's going to go first. So paper, rock, scissors. Ready? 1, 2, 3, shoot. Oh, look at y'all. If you're listening, they did the same thing. How sweet. Oh, it's like they're married. All right, ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. All right, Kelly wins. So Jeremy's going first. All right, so your first topic is traditional Thanksgiving foods.
Okay.
Ready, set, go.
Turkey.
Stuffing.
Yams.
Pumpkin pie.
Cranberries.
Green bean casserole.
Rolls.
Mashed potatoes.
Gravy.
What's left? What is left after that?
I don't know.
What is left after that?
Cranberry sauce.
I said cranberries, but
You
I was
said
about to
cranberries.
pull out some Hefner family specifics
I
that
was like,
were
what is left
not going to
after
be
that?
common.
Did
But
one of you say ham? Because we always have ham and
No,
turkey.
we
We're a
just
ham
do
and turkey
turkey.
family.
That's a lot of effort. We
Yeah.
do both.
So we do stuffing as well.
Oh, yeah,
and
we
so
didn't say
the
that.
homemade. That's the one time a
I said
year.
dressing, didn't I? dressing?
Maybe you did.
I don't remember.
Yeah, you said dress. Yeah, I think one of you said it because that was after turkey.
That's why I ran out of stuff because I was like, that's like pretty much our entire menu.
Yeah, so our
right.
family does a pistachio pudding, which is kind of like a Jell-O salad, but that's not a very common thing.
No.
That was about to be my next one.
Okay, so this next one is a little more generic, and so Kelly, you'll start this round since Jeremy started last round, and the topic is things related to fall.
Leaves,
pumpkin spice,
coffee,
boots,
sweater,
hats,
scarf,
rakes,
fire pit,
scarecrows,
pumpkin patch,
bales of hay,
stargazing,
hay rides.
Actually, I'm gonna. All right, so we had bales of hay. I'm like trying not to just bust out laughing in the microphone. So wait, I'm gonna may have to like because you said somebody said bales of hay and then you said hay rides. So I'm gonna say they're different. Are they different? I don't know. I guess they're different. So we'll give it to you. All right, so here we go. Jeremy's up 2-0. Oh, this is hard. Okay, so this one's gonna be a little harder, I think. But it's winner takes all. So Kelly, if you win this one, since it's harder, you win.
No
so
pressure.
the other two rounds basically didn't count. All right, here we go. You ready? All right. Historical facts or figures associated with Thanksgiving. I would be terrible at this one.
Oh my gosh.
Pilgrims.
Are you serious? Native Americans.
Corn. Did I put the corn?
Historical figures are corn?
Oh, figures.
Kelly wins.
I'm thinking like the Thanksgiving story, like the girl at the maze with the fish.
What's funny is I was like corn, and I couldn't figure out why that struck me so funny, and I was like, wait, I said historical.
That's why I went.
I was thinking like historical Thanksgiving. They put the fish over the corn.
Okay, so now that you've had a few seconds, we're going to redo that round. All right, so back to historical figures or facts related to Thanksgiving. All right, so it's now Kelly won that. So Jeremy, it's do or die for you because the first two rounds didn't count. She's ahead. All right, this is round 3.1. All right. And go.
Facts or figures?
Facts or figures?
Plymouth Rock. No?
Yeah, that works. I mean, that's related to the Pilgrims.
Okay. The Mayflower.
Santa Maria.
Wasn't that... Wait, I'm confused about historical facts.
That was
Columbus, right?
That was Columbus. I get it again!
Oh, she wins again! It was fun. This is how bad I am at history things. I'm like, I
know
think that's
4 boat
Columbus.
names. I know 4 boat names.
And that's why you're in the Air Force, because that's about a boat. Who cares about boats?
Oh my gosh.
You know the painter of Santa Maria.
That's not.
Yeah, those are isn't that Columbus?
That's Columbus.
Okay, all right. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. All right, so, well, all right, so, hey, invite the Hefners over for game night. But again, hey, thank you guys so much for sharing all this. I think it's just helpful to hear. It's good to hear from folks who are figuring out, but who are doing a really good job. God is working in and through you guys. It's obvious in your kids that He's working in and through you. And the ways that you serve, not just in this church, but the community. You said it earlier, so we're just going to say it's going to happen. You're trying not to move again. We hope that happens. We hope you do not have to move again because we love you guys. We're thankful for just your partnership in the gospel. So, hey, thanks for tuning in to Boggy Talk. If you've got questions, send us a message, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Boggy Talk. We are so glad you joined in the conversation. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss a beat.